Hello everybody, welcome to episode number 385 of the Stacey West Podcast, and we are live in the Legends Lounge. That worked exactly as intended, so I'm happy with that one. I'm Ben and I'm joined by Gaz. How you doing, mate? You keeping well?
I am. I'm really pleased that my microphone's turned on. Yep, we're keeping well. And of course, we're going to get straight on with it. Usually this is the bit of the podcast where we have a little bit of a reverent banter, but there's no time for that because we've got some important people coming on stage. Can you please give it up for Michael Skubala, Jez George and Liam Scully?
Okay, right, so we have one mic between our three guests because we know who the most important people on the stage are. Yeah, how are we doing, gents? Are we all well?
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, good, thanks.
Excellent.
I know my job.
You could get a role on the podcast, Jez. Let's jump straight into it because we've got limited time. We've got to ask the questions that some corners of social media seem to think they never get an answer to. The focus of our listeners in the run-up, Sam Clucas. So I just want to put it to bed. I don't want people to be going on about it all the time. Was he aware that he might be a bit part player? Was he happy with that? And towards the end of the season, was there a clause that would trigger an extension, hence his lack of game time?
So Sam is an experienced footballer. So he knows the rules of the game, which are head coach picks the team, players come to be available for selection. I remember the game that we had Sam came to one of our games before he signed. We were made aware, as happens from an agent, that there was a clause in his contract that would allow him to leave free in January to a Football League club. So when there was uncertainty, would we get through January with Ethan Urahan still in our building? So we thought we might lose a left-footed defensive centre midfield player, and we were given information that we might be able to sign free a left-footed defensive centre midfield player, especially one who's got such a big connection to the city and the club. I'd made it my business to get to know Sam over 18 months. I think when I first spoke to Sam, he was playing every week in the Championship, and that felt better than coming back to Lincoln at that moment. But when he was playing for Oldham Athletic in the National League, coming back to Lincoln felt the right thing for Sam. So yeah, he was really, really aware of what he was coming into. I was in the room with Michael when we spelled out what it could look like. And Sam's a big boy. He knows the rules of engagement. So for him, he came back trying to compete to play football. He wanted to play more. There's no doubt about that. And at the end, when we had conversations, and I'm seeing Sam still, I meet him on Monday because we missed each other in terms of end of season, like making sure we leave on proper good terms because the door's always open for Sam to return to this football club. He just wants to play more regularly than he was able to do here. Hence him going and securing himself a 2-year contract in a League Two club. So, yeah, we've got no issue with Sam. I don't think Sam's got an issue with us. But I also understand that his profile means there is a massive amount of scrutiny on him, and everybody rightly thinks of him as what he's done in the past, which is great credit to him, massive respect to him, been a Premier League footballer. Michael has to pick the team on what's in front of him and what's right for the group, and it wasn't just Sam that didn't get selected in that last 15, 20 games. There was a lot of other good players as well.
Thank you.
Okay, so continuing to get the obvious stuff out of the way first. Do we have any movement on players that have reached the end of the contract or maybe leaving the football club? So Pordy, Ethan, Sean Rowan, since your interview earlier in the week, Jez.
I'm getting it out of the way first, aren't I? This is a spotlight on me. So Sean Rowan, Sean Rowan's out of contract, declined to sign the contract that was offered to him by the club, but he's under the age of 24, therefore we have the right for compensation. We've agreed a compensation package with a club. However, Sean has not agreed to join that club, and it is Sean's gift to decide where he wants to go. And he's obviously sought after because of his level, played every minute of every league game last year. And you've seen how he's developed over the last few years to be a really competent fullback in this league. So, and left-footed as well. So that makes his value even higher. So, yeah, we've agreed. Sean hasn't. I'm sure Sean will. And if Sean wants to join a different club to the one we've agreed compensation with, then it's up to that club to agree compensation with us before they can sign the player, unless they're willing to go to a tribunal for that to be determined by the tribunal. So we're protected, we're comfortable with the package that we agreed, and we're comfortable with the package that any other club would at least have to match if he chose to go somewhere else.
And no movement at the moment on Pordy?
So Pordy actually had a conversation with his agent today. That's still live. Look, I probably should give you some clarity here or some context. The market was really slow in the first couple of weeks, and then there's been a bit of an explosion. You might have seen a few headlines in the last couple of days, a couple of clubs doing some business. Here's the truth, like there's players going from one League One club to another for double, treble our top salaries. So that's the context of this. Paulie's 27 years old. It's a really important contract for him. So he's got to go and his representative look at the market and see what those options are. I 100% know that if Pordy knew his future was away from Lincoln, we'd know that, and we don't. So at the moment, everything's live. We're discussing, we're talking, but I don't want that to be too big an encouragement to everybody, because like we're working in a marketplace where others have got finances that can blow us out of the water if they so wish.
Okay. I mean, the obvious follow-up as well to this is, has there been any movement with incoming players over the past week or so? And do you envisage doing much over the next couple of weeks? I think the transfer window closes and opens again, doesn't it, or something like that? So
yeah. Look, our window really opens on the 16th, 17th of June, effectively. Look, we're doing exactly what you'd expect us to do at this time of year. We know we're going to have a left full-back to sign, because we know that Sean's going to go. Because if he doesn't go to the club we've agreed something with, he'll go somewhere. So active communication with players, agents, meetings, the stuff that usually goes on, that probably goes on a little bit during season, but then ramps up at the end of a season. Michael and I spent a few hours with somebody yesterday. And in other positions, we've got contingency plans for if A happens, if B happens, if C happens. And we've got some players that we like. However, I must say again, the market's difficult, the market's expensive, the market's inflated. So we're going to have to be dead smart, and we might have to be really patient. I don't think you can copy and paste one transfer window onto the next. Everyone has its own nuances, and we talk a lot about we have our resource. We have to spend that wisely. It has to be affordable, and we also think it has to have value. So we need two ticks for that, not just affordable, the value and the player as well. And we can't spend it twice. So we have to be really clear that anything we do doesn't snooker ourselves or prevent ourselves from doing something that we'd like to later in the window. So, yeah, look, we're really active. We're speaking to the right people. We've got some good targets. But are they affordable? Are they available? That narrows down our market. And then it's really, really, really competitive, where we've got to prove our case ahead of other clubs.
Brilliant. That was just because I kept getting asked if there was going to be a TJ Ioma moment halfway through this podcast where somebody walks out onto the pitch. So just to clarify, that isn't going to happen. Okay, just to be...
That was about middle of August, wasn't it? So I've got a couple of months.
We played Bolton, didn't we? And we brought TJ out before the game kicked off in his puffer jacket. It was all very exciting. In terms of outgoings as well, I'm aware this is the Jez show, so it might be a chance to bring someone else in. I don't know. Mark Tracy has been linked, or has moved to Luton Town. I don't know if I've missed the news or not. He was certainly heavily linked. Are you in a position to discuss that and potentially any impact that it has on the club's operations over the summer?
Just forgive me to have 30 seconds on this, because I've worked with him for 7 years, and then I'll pass to Liam. Look, so number one, Mark Tracy was born in Luton, Luton Town fan, and Luton have been very, very persistent in their pursuit of him until it got to a point where, for Mark, it's the right thing, and we have to give him our blessing. He's a brilliant guy. He loves football. He watches an inordinate amount of games, like literally lives for football, breathes football, has done so many hours, so many miles, so many games for this football club. He leaves with our blessing. Cannot speak highly enough of the fella. Spent some time with him today, even though he's technically left, because that's him. He's away for a couple of weeks now, and then when he comes back, he'll start with Luton. So, yeah, just top guy. Does it impact us? Of course it does, because he's had a massive role to play in the last 7 years. Does it impact us critically in this window? No, because we've already got our plans, our targets, our work. And as you'd expect from us, we should be able to announce something very, very soon as to how we go forward differently. Now Mark's moved on. But yeah, just from me, massive respect for the fella, real affection for him, but also big thanks for all his hard work for this football club.
Okay, I was waiting for Liam.
For those listening at home, Liam has just refused the microphone with a smile and a shrug, saying, "I think all has been said."
Fair enough. One for Michael and Liam, really. In terms of last season, looking back at it, was it viewed internally as a success, both on and off the field?
So I'll take on the field. Liam can take off the field.
I thought you'd have gone with off the field.
I didn't want to tell Liam how to do his job off the field. So, I think it was. We have to accept, we are a club that is developing, growing. I think top half finish in League One for Lincoln City is a success. I think our stretch target will always be: can we reach the playoffs? Can we keep going and keep moving in the right direction? But part of that is always building. And as you know, going through a window, when you look at it, it's never for me in just one cycle. Of course, we all want to get promoted. Of course, we all want to challenge. There's no one more than me, the players, everybody at the EPC that work hard every day to try and be the best we can be. But I think when you sit back and look back at the season, it's actually a good finish to what we did, especially, when we had a little bit of a wobble, like everybody knows, in the middle of the season. So I think on the pitch again, and not forgetting, at the same time we've developed some players, and we keep developing the players and hopefully adding to what we're doing here in the model. So it's not just one metric, if you like, to be measured on. But of course, we always want to finish higher. So don't think that is a defeatist way of looking at it, because it's not. It's football, and it moves and it's quick. But yeah, for me, it's a success. To finish top half for Lincoln City. Just quickly to follow up on that, I think from conversations that I know we had at the start of the season, and again with a couple of the players, there was an awful lot of talk about trying to continue the momentum from last season, and a lot of talk around playoffs, whether that was this is what the ambition is or this is what the genuine target is. Do you feel that maybe that overplayed is the wrong word, but do you think that could have been a factor in how some fans have seen the season? I don't fully understand the question, so you're gonna have to go with me again. So just at the start of the season, there were noises coming from the club about we want to make the playoffs this season. We want to make the playoffs. So we set up to make the playoffs. There's we go out to win every single game. So we want to make the playoffs. There's no doubt about that. And I think we have a group, and we build a group of young men that want to achieve something and want to make the playoffs. And if you look at the story as we started the season, I think we started the season really brightly, and we were there, and we were doing really well. And I can't remember. I think it was it Boxing Day? We were 4th or something? No, 6th. Sorry. And we're in and around it, but as always, and I think I said it at the start of the season, let's see where we are at the end of January, because I think when you get through that period and then you hit the Easter, you know where you are. I don't think clubs find their levels, don't they? You only have to look at people Leyton Orient, who have had a fantastic season as well. They were low at the start of the season, so I think till you get out the back of January with all the games and all the injuries and through the next window, you have to be in touching distance, and that we need to improve that next year for sure, and find a way. And we're looking at that as staff, because I think that's happened over a few years now, and how we steady the ship, if you like, through that period, really.
I'll pass to Liam, but just quickly, we also have to be cognizant of, we sold Lass, we sold best goalkeeper in the league, Lucas. Guy who scored loads of goals was on loan to us, and we want there to be expectation, because that means you've got a successful football club with ambition. But I don't think that affects the outcome, because I think just as much as we're talking about our ambition to be in the top 6, the composition of the league last year, the finances of the league last year, I certainly heard Liam say a couple of times, and in these forums, almost top 10, top half finish this season just gone would probably equate in value, almost in terms of achievement, to what we did the season before, where we missed out on the playoffs on the last day. So I think you don't want to ever be victims of underplaying ambition. We want aspiration, we want people to believe, and we'd rather do that and fall short than dampen expectation and ambition to such a level that we're not trying to drive this club forward.
Yeah, I think, look, these, I don't know if I can say this now, but these things aren't binary, or somewhat they are, but like it's not success or failure. And so is the question, are there things that we should have done better last year on and off the field? Like 100%, absolutely. And, you know, when we kind of try and put things out like the budget ranking and try and give people context, we're not trying to be hide away from the realities of that, but what we're just trying to explain is the real challenges and you know, context of the market. So in some areas, I would say last year was really successful. In other areas, there's a long list of things that we have to do better. And I think it's just about we're constantly trying to move the football club forward. At the same time, there are 23 other teams in the division trying to do the same thing, and sometimes we can move at speed. But like, I'm not here for his PR, but like the one thing that you should know is Michael is our most successful head coach of the last 25 years when you compare resource to outcome. Like that's a fact. And I know it's not as sexy because there's not a title and there's not a Wembley trip and there's not whatever, but like that's just in terms of delta, in terms of resource to output, like Michael has done that and has achieved that. And you know, when you're finishing mid-table and maybe you haven't had something, we can completely understand and recognise why maybe that feels like a backward step. So I think our job is to try and get the balance right between, like I say, setting fair and realistic expectation, keeping people engaged. I don't know if I can say this, not bullshitting people, but like equally, you know, trying to keep the football club moving forward. And like we never want to talk about budgets, resources as a defensive mechanism, but we just want to set the context of which the football club's going to achieve. And then maybe bridging the conversation with the last bit. Maybe my most defensive bit would be, I think people in the football industry have a higher regard for what we did at Lincoln City last year than maybe fans or people sitting on the outside of that. And the biggest indicator I can give you of that is that this summer, or maybe just before the end of the season, since that point to today, we've had 8 approaches for different members of staff. Some have turned them down, some have joined, but like our team members are the hottest property, not players, in Championship League 1 and League 2 football, because of, I think the football industry knows the job that we've done. So that isn't, please don't take that as me trying to be really precious and pat ourselves on the back. But I do think there is a different lens internally in the football industry to external, where, being quite honest, we've spent most of the summer, everybody in the football industry congratulating us on what a good job we've done and trying to find ways to replicate what we've done. So I just think there's got to be balance. But let me be really clear, there are a ton of things that we should have done and could do better last year, and we've spent a lot of time having gnarly arguments and debates and discussions with each other, challenging how we do that. Because we have to get this football club into the playoffs again. We have to get this football club looking up. We want to do that, and we'll spend every single day trying to achieve that. But it's going to take a lot of us to pull together, same bit of rope, same time, hit a really small sweet spot. But that's our aim, without question.
We'll have no swearing on the Stacey West podcast. Thank you, Liam.
Who would do such a thing?
Jesus. So to continue in the vein of positivity, by the way, what's my next question? What elements of last season are you least satisfied with? So you've joking aside, you've kind of picked up there on some things that you think that you would do differently, whether that's on the field or off the field. And I just wondered if there was kind of an example or two that you could give us of something that last season didn't quite go right, and a method or way that you're going to put it right this season.
Yeah, so let's be really candid and probably rip off the plaster here. So at the end of the previous season, we landed on a methodology in order to achieve results that wasn't, a corny football term, but wasn't quite the game model that we had in terms of the aims and objectives. But I won't say we fell on it, but we had a system and a structure that worked and delivered a lot of points on the board, and we hit the end of the season. The mistake we three collectively made is in losing certain key attributes, we then tried to replace that, replicate that, and almost use the blueprint of the previous year and try to deliver that again. Now, I do think it'd have been really brave of us to go away from that in the summer, but maybe bravery is what you're asking for us and what should be expected of us. So I think what we found at the start of the year, while we accumulated a lot of points on the board and we were seeing wins, we were looking at some of the underlying data and some of the elements that sit behind that and questioning how replicable that was over 46 games of a league season. So I guess what we're probably saying there is we're picking up more points than maybe we felt we could achieve over a 46-game season, despite having started quite well. And then what we asked Michael to do and what we started working on is just tweaking and adapting that. And then we probably spent a bit of time just in that period where we couldn't quite land on the right structure to achieve points and wins, but equally that was something that you could build on and build on and build on. And collectively, the bit that we've had to look ourselves in the mirror and share is the fact that I wouldn't say it took too long, but it was just a clunky process that was played out in front of fans, and that was difficult. Once we had real honest conversations internally, and once we landed on where we are, what we're aiming, reminded ourselves and went back to that, you actually saw the outcome of that in the final third of the season. So yeah, just bearing our soul and being really honest, we probably should have been braver in the summer and got closer to home, but we tried to replicate. And then in that transitional phase, we never quite landed on the sweet spot until quite late. And that's played out almost in a game-by-game scenario. Our job is always to kind of look at it at trends and at a kind of higher level than that. And yeah, we definitely should have, the three of us, been better in the execution of that, and we wear that, and we have to accept that going forward.
Can I kind of point that a little bit to Michael? Because I think on the BBC Radio Lincolnshire interview, you said that there was some lessons that you had learned first full season. I just wondered what kind of the biggest thing you felt you took away from the season was as a learning point for a new head coach.
It's long. No, I think if you go back to the journey, when I came into post, I probably inherited a team that was back 5, 3-4-3, or 5-4-1, whichever way you want to look at it. And I wanted to evolve the team into a more aggressive, front-footed team. And it takes time. I think this is the thing that we have to accept in football. If you could just tell a player to do X and he did it, we'd all be coaches and managers, wouldn't we? Because that's the easy bit, I suppose. But so the coaching takes time. And we evolved into what Liam was saying, into like an aggressive 3-5-2. So the principles are the same. But I've always played 4-2-3-1 before I came to this club. But I think I'm not a head coach that won't pivot if I think it's right for the group and right for the club. And we have this discussion all the time. And I think that's why, Liam and the guys brought me here. I'm not a coach that will go, I'm going to play this way because it suits me, and I think that's how we should do it, if it's not right, because I don't think that's right. So I'm a little bit different to some coaches that talk about just identity, but the principles are the same. So then we move into, and we tweak a little bit in December last year and we sign Joe Taylor. So tweak the team a little bit there, and we go into an aggressive 3-5-2, but it's actually a hybrid, pretty much of what Stockport have done this year, where they flip into a 4-4-2. And then we were really successful, weren't we, like Liam said. So we were actually, everyone's brilliant, and we found a method that we thought, this is going to be hard to play against, and we kicked that off again. And then as we go on the journey, as Liam said, it's like, I want to keep the principles. I want to be aggressive. We want a team that's exciting to watch. And it was like trying to tweak the team, trying to steer the ship, if you like, knowing that we want to move more into how we want it to look. So if you were to ask me now, coming in post and saying to the guys, like, this is where I think it should look, and how long will it take? We're probably on track. But it takes longer than people think to steer it. And that takes windows, and that takes transfers, and that takes movement. So yeah, I don't know if that's answered your question very much, but I think the underlying thing here is that the principles don't have to change. Everyone gets caught up on systems and styles, and the biggest challenge I found this season, I think this will answer your question. As we've grown as a club and a team on the pitch, and we're aggressive, and we take Peterborough, which is one of the best games we've probably had last season, and we stopped them playing. Teams started to do something really that I didn't expect, which was completely not play and completely shut it on top of us, and we hadn't experienced that the season before. And that was a learning curve for me massively, because when you have teams, and I won't say them, that they consider themselves ball-playing teams, but they come to Sincilbank and do not play at all, it's hard because we're setting up for a team a certain way, and then teams are changing for you. So in a way, that's like they're being respectful to us now, so we've earned that respect. So, but now we need to grow, and I think that was part of the journey where we moved and started to grow into a little bit of how we finished the last 10 games of the season.
Cool. So one of the big wins this past season was set pieces. So got the most goals in the league. Is that something that's obviously a more conscious focus in training? And will we see more of the same again this coming season, or is that giving away too many secrets?
So, again, let's go back to the start. So when I came into post, I think Clive nudged me and went, can you stop us conceding at set pieces? And I was like, let's have a go. So, and that was the first thing. So people don't see that, because the first job at set pieces was I needed to build a way that we didn't concede as many set pieces. Before we get on to, you're talking about scoring, I think, because I think that's what everyone's talking about now. But first we had to stop shipping so many easy goals from set pieces, because, League One is League One, and lots of goals are scored from transition and set pieces. And we know that as a club and a team, on and off the pitch, that aerially you can be really dominated, and we've got a really good dominated aerial team. And then we go into a journey where we start looking at it, and with the guys here are talking about how we can use an innovative way with AI and a company that we're working alongside, which is, forward thinking. I spoke to these guys when I was at Leeds as well, so it's out there, but we're starting to take it to another level. How we can take all that information, my job is to then work with the coaching staff and lead and look at how we can take all that information and build a coaching program around it, and how we can work with that. But again, that takes time, because if we only did set pieces, we won't win games, so we have to manage that within the working week. And then there's a lot of detail that goes into that myself, obviously Scotty coaches a little bit of that as well, but we work really hard on that. So when you actually look at a body of work to an outcome, that's the obvious bit. But there's lots of other areas we work on in terms of set piece. But the reality is you still need good delivery, you still need aerial dominance, you still need certain things, but there's a lot of work going in behind set pieces, which some guys have seen before, how we use technology, which we are doing, and how we use these things to keep improving us. So I would hope we can be as successful as that. But again, the challenge we have with set pieces, when teams come to us now, they're picking bigger players. So, they're adapting again to what we're trying to do. They're trying to stop us doing what we want to do, or not give set pieces away by not playing. So kicking over so we don't get as many set pieces. So because we've been a real threat. So our challenge is ourselves, and how we keep evolving when we're looking sideways a little bit, and that's the same for set pieces. How do we now keep going and evolving it and keep moving forward with it?
Sorry, just really quickly, I just think it's a good example actually of we've got to compete against budgets twice, 3 times as big as ours. How do we overachieve? Like spending a small amount of money with an AI company, being innovative, creating a culture, players buying into it, real level of detail, doesn't cost very much. Outcome, 30 goals, highest in the EFL, lots of points, helps us to overachieve. So that's an example of find a way. We've got to be really smart, outthink, outwork in order to be more successful. And then, as Michael says, make sure we don't follow the same pattern of last year. We have to accept next season is going to be different. And therefore, we might have to rely less on set play goals, because other teams are going to be so aware of them, and we've got to develop in a different way. So that doesn't mean we don't pay big, credence to them, but we've got to develop other areas of our game as well to be more of a threat in open play, for example. So it's a continuum, and we can't stop and look back and look at replicating, but when we have successes, we've got to build on it and continue to evolve the team and the group.
So you mean opposition goalkeepers probably won't stand so far to their left when Rico takes the free kick?
That's a classic example. Just really quickly, it was Bolton, wasn't it?
Bolton, yeah.
Because we do the little feint, and because we try and do that to make their backline drop, and in them dropping, we stay onside, and then we can deliver balls really directly at their goal for any little touch that goes in. Bolton was so deliberate in playing a really high line. Their goalkeeper was then edging to try and stop the distance between the two. And young George, our analyst, spots it upstairs in the first half and has got am I allowed to say this, the balls to come down and tell the coaching staff and the players. And Rico executes unbelievably. But the goal comes from them trying to be proactive in stopping us from a set play that they're very aware of. So even in that moment, the effect of cumulatively of our success from set plays lent to that moment. Now, obviously, Rico's got to execute, but it was a result of what we've done in previous games.
Thank you. I don't know what time we're on, but I'm still going to ask this next question anyway. So in the winter window, in the budget table, I believe we jumped from 19th to 17th. Was that something, kind of a strategy that was planned at the beginning of the season, or was it more reactionary or situational, similar to the 22-23 season?
No, I just think we're going to be more active, obviously, in the summer window. That's where the majority of players are going to be signed. But we'll always have eyes open for what happens in the January window. So on occasion, that might be a loan. So previous year, Joe Taylor, but also Jack Moylan. So if the right asset becomes available to sign in a summer league, that meant Jack was out of contract at the end of October, November. And in this case, an opportunity arose where a proven goal scorer became available because he played 300 odd minutes only in the first 6 months of the season. We knew that he was definitely available for loan. We knew that he was talking to League One clubs. It's our job, therefore, to get into that race. And look, at one moment in that race, we realised we could do this on a permanent. And we absolutely jumped on that. And then that's credit to Liam, the board, ownership, to back us to do it. So we set out on the 1st of December saying we're going to no, but eyes open for opportunities. When that opportunity came, we wanted to execute. So let me be totally honest. I've heard this question asked before. Like, did we not want James Collins in the summer? No, of course we didn't. Like, we want James Collins whenever he's available, or any proven goal scorer. The reality is, it's really, really hard for us to operate in that market. Opportunity arose, club backed us to do it. I think the other reason in January we brought Joe Gardner in because we had an injury to Jack Moylan that happened in January, so that was a little bit reactive. But that's our job, to have a contingency that we lose a player of a very, very unique skill set. We wanted to replace that skill set. And look, the reality is we've only gone up a couple of positions in the budget table because others didn't. It wasn't like we suddenly spent loads of money. But that was the reason, opportunity. And if there's an opportunity, we'll try and grab it when we can.
Lovely, thank you very much. I think time-wise now, we're probably looking at our break. Liam, I promise to include you a little bit more in the second half. You've been looking lost a little bit on the end there with nothing to say. But one last question, Michael, I've got to ask. You know, when we're attacking, I see you crouched down in the dugout to look. How can you see anything crouched down? Because I can't see anything from anywhere in the lower tier.
I don't know. I'm just probably thinking about what's going on and trying to see the world in a different way. But you just have habits, don't you? So it's amazing because I'm going to say that I think the fans are amazing. The 617, part of our club is, we talk to the guys and when they bring the atmosphere. But actually, when you're in as a coach, you hear noise, but you don't hear it. I know it sounds nuts because you're so focused on the game. So that's probably just me focusing on trying to fix problems or trying to get them going, really. I've got a friend who's a Leeds fan, and he was watching a game with me, and he saw that, and he saw you crouched down, and he kind of turned to me and went, "You can take the boy out of Leeds." Yeah, probably a habit. I don't know. It's probably just a habit. Yeah. So it's either that or I'm running up and down the touchline, but usually I'm chasing Shorey to say get off the fourth. So.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention. We'll have a short 10-minute break. Don't forget, you can order your kits at the back, Louise. You can refill your glasses, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes. Thank you.
Cheers.
Welcome back to part 2.
Yeah.
I hope you have all got your glasses refilled, and like James, you have all purchased your shirts. Should we get on with the questions then? Now when I asked for the Stacey West team to give me some questions, I got this one sent to me, and honestly, halfway through, I nearly fell asleep. So my apologies for this.
This wasn't mine, by the way.
So I'm going to read it out as it is. This is for Jez and Liam. So Leyton Orient obviously overachieved their budget last season, made the playoff final, outstanding achievement, which is, basically was the only team that kind of bested us. But it does show that a top half budget is probably required to have a realistic chance of achieving and making the playoffs. With our budget increasing from the previous season to last season and yet dropping to a bottom 8th place in the budget table, what's the plan budget-wise next season? Where do we expect to be in the budget table? And how does that affect our realistic expectations for next season in terms of a league finish? Do you see what I mean now?
Was that from a C Nates or a H?
Given the reactions of the Stacey West team on the table over there, I'm really wondering who it was that submitted that one, Chris.
That felt like a board meeting. Right. So, yeah, 100%. So let's just be... So I don't know if anyone saw, but Kieran Maguire, the price of football, he put out a bit of a kind of... So this would have been the previous year, 23-24, and put the kind of... the comparisons of what the league spent, the debt that it was in, the amount of cumulative losses, and it's quite sobering when losing £3 million a year is good. And that's a problem. And I think what we've got to do here is, like, let's be really clear. Our owners, our investors, they support us, help us. They want to move forward. But, like, you know, it's their hard-earned money, and it's never about what they want to do and what they can do. But we have a responsibility as custodians of Lincoln City Football Club to make sure that we're just not, you know, taking money off an investor, spending it 1 year, all or nothing, and going from there. But you're absolutely right. Broadly, the model at Lincoln City has been 10, 12 type budget. Realistically, can you then overachieve on that delta in order to hit the playoffs? Now, historically, that has been our model. We got a real shock this time last year when we started seeing some of the spending going around the division. And if I'm honest, we thought we'd be around 16th place when that first spending table came out. And when we found ourselves in 19th, we had a real shock. And it's not actually about the 1 to 24. It was like the spread in the division, and effectively like what a second team of a top half team can be versus, you know, the resource. But let's be really honest, the fans and people really don't care about the budget table. It's an industry tool, and we've got to respect that. And our job is to try and use the resource that we've been given as wisely as possibly can in order to kind of achieve our aims and our objectives. And effectively, that's what we are talking to the board. That's what we're talking to the investors. They're doing everything they can. But being completely candid with you, you know, I've had to sit and talk to the board and say, you know, do we want to lose £5 million a year in order to move 3 places up the budget table? I can't sit there as chief exec and honestly advise them that that's a good idea and is a sensible way to run the football club. So we've got to get the balance right between the level of investment that's required to underpin the football club, that, by the way, would never ever be a 1 year thing. You know, you've got to commit that to over 2, 3, 5 years realistically, and then how can we get return on investment, that's not financial return, sporting, enjoyment, everything that comes with it. How can that make sense? And being really honest, right now it's difficult to stack up any reasonable argument why you would take and ask owners and investors to put even more money based on the diminishing returns that you'd get in order to achieve that. So the whole business model at Lincoln City, we've lifted the drains up. We've got, you know, under the bonnet. We've looked at all opportunities. Jason and the commercial team and everything that we're looking to do within growth and innovation. That's all got to play its part. But fundamentally, we definitely believe we can still be a really competitive team, pushing for playoffs every year. We might have to do things slightly differently. We're going to have to sweat and make our pound work harder than other clubs. But we absolutely, and we can definitely do that. And that's exactly what we're paid to do, and that's exactly what we'll be doing every day. But it is becoming more difficult, but that doesn't mean that we're any more less enthusiastic or less believing in what can be achieved. In fact, the more that we go through this, the more wastage that we see going on actually gives us more optimism.
Just one thing, I think we don't feel like we've got the 19th best squad. So whether that, you know, that's not us patting ourselves on the back, but we work really, really hard to get value when we recruit. Now, because of the way we have to do that, we're either going to get a player at the bang end, probably the career, like a James Collins. When I say bang end, I mean, rephrase that. But a really, really experienced player at the latter end of his career, or mostly pre-peak players. And players who want to come here because they see the pathway in terms of what this club can do for them, what they can do for this football club, and how we can help them in their career. Now, with them, there'll be a risk because they've not got proven track record in League One, so we won't get all of them right. But that is the way. But yeah, we genuinely don't ever feel like we've got 17th, 18th, 19th place squad. But we're still, even if our squad is 5, 6, 7 places, we feel in terms of quality above our budget level, we're still asking for an overachievement. And that's why it's really important to us, the infrastructure we have, the EPC, quality of pitches, quality of coaching staff, quality of support staff, because that's our use of AI to be top of the table in set plays. That's our way of trying to equalise that budget table.
You say about pre-peak players, that leads us nicely onto the academy. And obviously we saw an increase in academy players establishing themselves this year in the first team. Development of Jovan, Sean established his first choice and obviously playing every minute of every game. Will there be that intent going forward with the next batch coming through the academy?
So intent and next batch, I probably need to pick up both of those. So next batch there isn't a next batch because this is a continuum. Mm-hmm. And like, will we ever sign Jovan and Freddie calibre in a single year group, both centre forwards, both released by Derby County under 16s? I doubt it, to be honest. And there's probably a couple of people there scratching their heads as to how that happened. Sean Rowan, we were able to sign because that was pre-Brexit. We're not actually allowed to sign a player at 16 years old from the Republic of Ireland anymore. So my point, I suppose, is the world's changing all the time. We have to adapt all the time, and there's some unique circumstances as to why those three players, particularly the calibre of those three, we were able to sign. The intent continues because we're always looking to develop players who might come into our building 18, 19, 20, 21, not quite ready for our first team. I know there's discussion as to whether that's the right strategy or not, but we feel it is, and then find a loan to aid their pathway and then hopefully establish themselves as first team players. There'll always be that route there from the academy, and I'll let Michael speak about what that looks like on a day-to-day basis. So Charlie Parks, Bola, Zane, MJ, Oshin, these are players who in the intermediate time between Sean, Jove and Fred are boys that have come through the academy. The truth is now, the competition's never been higher, the level's never been higher. Lincoln City's just finished in the top half of League One for the first time 3 consecutive seasons for a very, very, very long time. So the bar's getting higher all the time. So the challenge to those boys to come through and the landscape in which we can recruit them from is really tough and different. So there's a few things we'll continue to do. That accelerated pathway into the first team is really important. Head coach like Michael who wants to encourage that. How we recruit at which ages. And look, a long-term aim that we have is to try and find probably players across this county at much, much younger age that could be missed. There's not many counties in this country anymore. Football saturated, recruitment saturated, scouting saturated. Everybody looks at everything, but it's a rural enough county that young kids are going to get missed. So we've got something pretty exciting to announce in the next few weeks about how we're going to do that. But that is that's 10 years plus in terms of getting its rewards from that. But it's important that we do that structurally for the football club to protect the long term of the club. So massive intent, landscape's changed, very, very difficult to replicate those three, especially in one given season, but we'll continue to work as hard as we can to bring through players.
Yeah, I think let me put some numbers behind that as well, because when we talk about the landscape's changed, I think it's important that we kind of quantify that. So last year we were the highest number of minutes for any Category 3 academy in the EFL. 18% of minutes were played by academy graduates. Now, that class, that group, if you want to call it, that was around £500,000 investment by the board into the academy over a 3-year period. Actually, the run rate actually started at about £150,000, and then with inflation and various other things, that went. So that was a simplification, but £500,000 effectively paid for that 18% of minutes, and then there's value on the field and then there's value in potential future transfers. If we were to run the exact same iteration of the academy over that 3-year cycle now, that investment, because of the rise in national minimum wage, the rise in operating costs, that would be over £950,000 to run the exact same model. So for us to then say, over a period of time, to invest what was £500,000 versus what would end up being £1 million, or when you then look at the return on investment of that, we've then got to go. We've only got, like Jez says, you can only spend it once. How's the best way for us to deploy that resource? Learning and going back to what we said before, just because something worked in the past doesn't mean it's going to work in the future. Equally, does this mean that we're not investing into the academy? No, but it's not the same playbook and it's not the same academy that brought Freddie, Sean, Jovan and others through. Like it's not. We are working to a different playbook, a different strategy, a different investment model that aims to still achieve different results and outcomes. But I can't stand in front of the board and say put £500,000 over 3 years, this is your return on investment, versus put £1 million in. The delta is just too huge. So I think they're the things that we have to look at when we talk about what are we trying to do for our academy. We definitely still want to ensure we capture all talent across Lincolnshire. We definitely want to get academy players into the first team, but labouring the point, it's a different playbook. It's not the same academy that was Sean, Freddie, Jovan, etc.
And maybe just one final thing. There'll also be a debate about should you have a 21s group. And again, it's exactly the same argument. It's like that would probably cost us £500,000. Sorry, £500,000 a year. What we try and do is we try and find what's the best hybrid of that, and that might be being really proactive in recruiting potential talented players that we think have got a chance of playing on our first team, but at 19, 20 in deltas of 1s and 2s, and then finding loans for them where we get their wages covered. They may train with us, it'll be a part-time loan, or they may go on a full-time loan, and then there'll be a percentage of those come through, and there'll be a percentage of those haven't cost this club very much money and go on and have really successful careers. So it's always trying to make the money go the longest way possible and not taking £500,000 out of a playing budget that started at 19th and finished at 17th and be competitive in League One.
Cool. And just, Michael, from your point of view on a day-to-day basis, integrating the academy players, I mean, what does that look like and how has that changed for you?
I think everyone probably knows, I'm a huge believer in young talent. I think the hardest bit is you can't make the game easy for them because, we all want to see younger talent on the pitch, but they have to be ready. My job is to help them and support them to become ready with the coaching staff and also, make sure they have the opportunity when it's right. And I think part of that is, I only have to look at, I think I said it when I came in, Jovan's a super talent, and when I came in, people are looking, I think, going, what's he seeing here? But you can see things, you can see talent in the job I do, but it doesn't mean they always get there. That's the challenge, it's football, the percentage of these young footballers getting to the top is a very tough world. But on a day-to-day basis, we work closely with the academy staff. They come up, so even when we're doing a match plan on a -1, sometimes we'll bring the academy lads up to do 11v11, so I see them a lot. And that's not just to use them as an opposition, but it gives me an opportunity to see what levels they're operating at, and then it's my job and with the academy to sort how we try and nurture that talent that's in the building at the right moment. So, when we look at Zane this year, who's growing all the time, we brought him up and he started training with the first team, but his games program would have to still be with the 18s on a Saturday. And then you start to introduce him more to senior training. And there is a jump. There's a reality is there's a physical jump, there's a mental jump, there's a professional jump. Everything you would expect in senior football, there is a huge jump. And I think the jump's getting bigger, not small in my areas of youth development. But for sure, we want to see, everybody wants to see young players on the pitch. Everybody wants to see that. But, my job is to make sure that we get the balance of that right for winning games, for supporting the young player, but also, nurturing the talent as assets as well.
Thank you. Now, looking forward with the change in formation that we've had, I mean, we don't get hung up too much on formations, but moving more towards what you want. Are you looking to add any players with a different profile to what we have? I know Jez mentioned, may have been an offhand comment, but in the interview with Michael Horton, we were looking to give Michael something a little different. Is there something specifically a little different that you're looking to add to the squad?
Yeah, I think me and Jez speak all the time, like how we, evolve the team. And I think it comes back down to the same thing that we're talking about here. How do we evolve? How do we have the resources and the types of profiles of players in the building to select? And I generally believe, when we go up against different opposition, I will tweak it. I will change it because, one style of left winger is not the same as another style of left winger. So to have those options at your disposal is, I'm always challenging Jez on, like, have we got this profile in the building? Have we got that profile? And, when you start to put a tactical plan together and start to build on what their weaknesses are, playing. Let's use Rico, for example. He can play across all three areas as a 10. He can play left, he can play central, and he can play right. But that's dependent on how we want to play, obviously, but it's also dependent on how we think we can exploit the opposition on the day and how we build a team ready for that. And again, it could be even as simple as, Ben House as a 10 is a very different 10 from Tom Bayliss, Rico, JJ McKinnon, they're different profiles. And for managers and coaches, you want different profiles in the buildings because it gives you different options. So, of course, I think that answers your question. Yeah, we are looking at different things to keep us moving forward. The hardest bit here is getting them. Not it's a shopping list, of course, that you want, but the hardest thing is with, getting the players in the building.
Okay. So does not being able to replace departing players like for like hinder us? So by that I mean, for example, if we sell Ethan O'Rourke for £1 million, we won't spend anything like that on any potential replacements.
Yeah, but that's the way we operate. That's the model. And I think we've got to be really careful here because, and I get it, I get why this happens. The player that leaves us is always remembered, not the player that joins us. So, I don't know, there would have been a few furrowed brows at Bolton away, a couple of start of the season before last, when Lucas didn't quite get to a corner kick, and people would have probably gone, I don't know if we can ever replace Carl Rushworth. And then by the end of the season, he's the best goalkeeper in the league. And then we sell him, and then George Wickens comes in, and he gets measured against the end point of Lucas, not the start point of Lucas. So that's our model. We accept that, and actually we're excited by that because what happens is in that period of time there is a continuum of development as well. So let's give some examples from this moment to this time last year. Jovan Makama's a better player because of his development. Rob Street's gone out and scored 12 goals and 16 starts in League Two, so he comes back in as a better player. We signed Tom Hamer, so whether Pordy leaves or not, we've got a centre-back who's now played a number of games at this, etc., etc., etc. Since we signed Ethan O'Rourke, we've spent a transfer fee on Ethan Hamilton. We've brought Conor McGrandles back to the club, and we've signed Tom Bayliss. So we've got 3 really, really competent League One centre midfield players. So that's the answer. Is like this is a continuum. A season can never be the defining moment where we decide that's the end. It's a continuum where we are bringing players in, developing players, selling players. Our aim in those cycles is that we're constantly evolving and improving the base of the club so that last season we went through a summer where we sold Lass, we sold Lucas, Joe goes back from his loan, Alex Mitchell goes back from his loan, 2 senior players, Ted Bishop and Danny Mandrew leave the club. It's a big chunk, but we still finish in a really competitive league, 11th place, but we signed 5 22-year-olds on 4-year contracts, and 1 or 2 of them, like Dom Jeffries, flew from the start, and 1 or 2 need longer. But they'll all be in a better place in year 2 than in year 1. So it's just I don't know if that made any sense, but in my head, this is multi-layered, faceted squad list where we're looking at assets, we're looking at age, we're looking at experience. We signed James Collins, so we've got an experienced centre forward in our building where this time last year we didn't. So yeah, position by position, does Ethan go out and a less ready or less high level player come in potentially, but the other 18 players in the squad might have developed and therefore the aggregate result is better. And that's what we've got to look at all the time. That's how we strengthen. So, and look, great credit to our board and our investors because in the context of a club that's losing £3 million a year, they allow us to reinvest. So do we reinvest it all in the same player? No. But do we reinvest it in a number of players? Yes. And it's not so simple as we sell a player for X and we get that money on day one. Those payment terms are often over 2 or 3 years. So we're asking our board to continually, subsidise losses and also allow us to reinvest transfer fees. So the result of that might be take a little bit of time and a bit of patience before we see the fruit of it. But that's the continuum, and it's always trying to improve the aggregate rather than maybe like for like a position.
All I know is Charlie's out there somewhere smiling because Alex Mitchell's got a mention. He's so happy. They were so close. They were friends. They messaged each other and all sorts.
Football friends.
Yeah. So
Alex has got hair now. I don't know what's happened to him. He's changed. He's gone south, and look what happened.
Did he go on loan to Turkey?
Charlie wishes he had some hair. So when we're talking criticisms, sadly, that do come on social media and from various people, and one of the criticisms that has been levelled at the club in the past is assets contracts running out, the likes of Regan Poole, potentially Pordy and leaving the club. Now, obviously, that's part of the model. But in hindsight, have there been any offers for that type of player that you've regretted not taking? And how do you strike that balance, make those decisions at key moments?
Yeah, look, I think there's only one that we look back on and we turned something down, but we did it for the right reason. That was Regan. And the reason I say that is Regan signed for us as an asset purchase. We thought it'd also improve our team, which he did, so in-use value. And we paid a transfer fee for Regan. And am I allowed to say? Yeah, so post-Wembley, so we lose the player final. We lose a number of loan players because obviously that was highly dependent on loan players. We lose Teo Eden, we lose George Grant. We made the decision that summer not to sell Rico when an offer came in for him. Regan. Now, in the end, our learning from Regan is, to get him out of the club that was in, to get the agreement with the agent and the player, we probably didn't put enough length on that contract to protect the club to get more than one bite of the cherry, because that summer we didn't sell him. The following summer there weren't offers. We're not in a position financially to go to him and be able to get him to re-sign. So we pay a fee and we lose him. I think everyone else is really different. You know, I think Lasse Sorensen, we learned from that. We've got a longer contract plus an option so that we pay a transfer fee. He plays 100 plus games for us and we realise a big asset value sale at the end in comparison to the investment at the start. I think the Paudie O'Connor one is completely different. He's a free transfer. He's in-use value to us. We don't see him as an asset to sell. And the reason we signed Paudie was willing to run down his contract post-24 and signed on a free transfer. And Paudie's confident in the marketplace, so he's able to do that again. So that we're never going to be in a position at this moment in time financially to be able to match market offers during the contract. The player is always going to want to see what that market looks like at the end. But I think they're different. And for me, the only one where we've bought a player as an asset and he's ended up leaving on a free was Regan. I don't see another one. And I think we've learned from Regan, hence realising asset value in players since.
Okay. So we often see little upgrades around the stadium throughout the post-season. Is there anything that you can shed any light on, and whether anything new and or improved will be in and around the ground?
So we have the car park in the Stacey West is going to be significant, or is being significantly upgraded over the course of the summer. I think we've all seen and heard the quite public debate, a lot of which isn't true, around the away disabled fans and what we can do there. So there's going to be some upgrades there. There's various boring operational things that are going on behind the scenes, just general upgrades of the stadium and various things of those elements. But yeah, I think probably the board have spent, since I've been here now, I think we're up to about £1.3 million of investment into the stadium, and that's hopefully as part of improving fan experience and equally making sure that we have a commercially thriving and vibrant place that the stadium is. So yeah, I think the main differences this year will be the car park. A massive change that people won't see, but this is a huge difference, is some offices are being added to the EPC. I know people have a question about the number of staff it now takes to having the first team, but towards the middle part of last season we had team members working with laptops and knees, and it was probably a bit of a suboptimal working environment, and one of the things that we wanted to do is just improve the working environment for people at the EPC. So yeah, whilst that's not fan facing, that's a really big deal for the environment and what we want at the EPC. But yeah, I think there's always an ongoing list of investment. I think this is really boring, but I think we've got about £3 million that we would love to spend tomorrow on things at the stadium that would improve fan experience, commerciality and other things. We just talked to our board ongoing about that kind of capital plan that maximises the investment into the team and on the field, into fan experience and other things. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, it's the 2025 version of, are the toilets going to be working this season, pretty much.
think all my dad's bothered about is that the Guinness stays good on tap. If that's the case, he'll be happy. Just a quick one as well about attendances and tickets, because there's often a belief on social media that the attendance that is released does not match the fans in the seats. Crawley at home on the Tuesday night particularly, I think, was 7,500. Lots of photos of empty seats. It's suggested that season ticket sales act as the base rate and then people coming through. What is the truth about the numbers on attendances?
I never lie, and the attendance is the attendance. No, unfortunately. The truth is, the football industry has developed a norm where tickets sold are included in that. So we do exactly the same as every other football club does, and effectively declare tickets sold. Sometimes that's more visible on a Tuesday night when there's more empty seats, but yeah, the attendance is tickets sold.
So for all the people that dislike me on social media, and the number is growing, I have just been proven wrong. So thank you for that, Liam. I love that. Do you know what? Let's switch. I've got a question that was in reserve from the first half, because Paul and Michael hasn't had a lot to answer, and I know it's one of Chris's, so Chris can smile away. With our style relying on aggression, pressing and running intensity, do we know how we performed against other teams in this regard? Did we run any further or any harder than our opponents? Is there any statistics around that? And if we did, how did we achieve it?
Ooh, big question. Is that Chris? It's a stats
Again.
question, right? Yeah.
Of course.
Okay, so the answer to the question. So we measure everything. It's a generic platform where we can assess how hard we've ran against other opposition. So it is generic, it's not bespoke. So you can't go to the opposition and go, give me your data and I'll take your data. It doesn't work like that. So it's a generic platform, that's clear. But we use resources and lots of different platforms for things. And the answer is, we outran 43 out of 46 games, I think the stat was, against our opposition this year. So we look at high speed running. So it's a big thing in our model. How much the players are doing high speed running, kilometres, which is a thing, and sprints. So hopefully you'll see a team on the pitch that runs hard, sprints hard, but it's part of our model, and it's not just for defensive stuff, it's for attacking stuff. It's to be front-footed, aggressive, how I like to see football. I think how the fans like to see football, it goes wrong. Sometimes they make technical errors and it can look a bit messy, but actually how we want to do it is that way. But I truly believe that 43 out of 46. I think the stats. It might be 42. But our lads work hard, and when we look at the generic metrics, let me be clear, and the platform, we've generally outrun our opposition in lots of different ways.
Just add one thing there. Everything's connected. So if you think about this, how do we overachieve with a budget that's in the bottom 6 or bottom 8? So we've got to find players that are undervalued by the top 6 or top 8 or top 10. So out of possession, do they run? Can they run? Do they want to run? Like physical attributes, we're going to sign pre-peak players, so the team's going to be quite young. Therefore, that makes sense to have a game model that is really aggressive against the ball. Makes sense then to employ a head coach who that's his belief and how he wants to play. We believe that's what you want to see. We believe that. We don't think you want to see 100 passes in our own half. We want to be an aggressive front foot team. We've got an unbelievable, brilliant fan base that gets behind us brilliantly. We want this place to be so hard to come and play. When Plymouth got promoted with a mid-table budget, they got 61 points at home. So that's our challenge, is to make this place really tough. Then we have to make sure that's how we train. Then we need to make sure that methodology is linked into the sports science and the medical department, because we need to keep people fit and robust. Our percentage of availability has gone higher and is really high compared to the rest of the teams in our league. So what Josh Snowden does, what Kieran Walker does, what that department does, plugged in every day. You can't believe the amount of planning that goes on every day. Michael, the coaching staff, the sports science team, to make sure training looks right for the individual and the collective to get those metrics as well as technical and tactical detail out. So everything's linked, as long as overall you have the vision of what's the club model, what's the game model, and then with a bit of luck, the output is we outrun the opposition, and that's a big part of how we win.
Thank you.
Super stuff. Well, I think that's pretty much...
I'm going to ask something positive.
I don't know what to ask.
Okay, so
we've run out of questions.
Then. We haven't run out of
We've
questions.
run out of...
We planned this before and you've forgotten. It's like talking to my wife. She's not here, is she? Actually. No, she hasn't got tonight.
Send her the audio.
Stacey West.
Literally, I just wanted to finish by kind of looking ahead to next season. We're feeling excited, positive. What are the aspirations? Let's end on a positive note.
I think we're ready to go. Like always, I think you get to the end of the season, you're tired, you have a little bit of a break, and then you miss it, and you miss I think that's what we do it for, isn't it? I think that's what we love it. You know, the drug of the game. You guys love it, we love it. The jeopardy of football, if you like, and we want to build and get ready on that start line and get into the next race and see how we do. So, but that's why I think that's why we all love it, right? Like the ups and the downs of football is what's beautiful. But we're excited to get going again. We're excited to. You know, we're excited that we've got a core group that we think can be successful. I think that's one thing here that, you know, we haven't lost loads of loan players, so we've got a really strong, solid group, and we want to add to that as much as we can, and there'll be a few movements. But then it's back to work and back to hopefully scoring and seeing some goals at Sinselbank.
I just think one of the biggest things this club has is we've got real stability. We're stable, we're calm, we're sensible. I think that's a USP in football. So for me, I think it's, like Michael says, coaching staff, lots of lessons learned from last year. Michael, come through like this, let's not forget, first full season in League One, we'll have learnt loads. And as he says, a real stable group, a really good group, a really honest, hard-working group. And if we can add the right couple more ingredients to that, we'll really attack the season trying to overachieve again.
Yeah, I don't want to overplay this hand again, but I think with the reputation this football club has within the industry, conversations that have taken place, and we've had some really phenomenal feedback from people at the very, very top of the game talking about what's going on here. The opportunity that certain staff members have had to move on, maybe to sexier, bigger clubs up the pyramid, things like that. The fact that, you know, majority of them have turned those opportunities down. I think for me, a bit corny, but something's cooking here. We know we're on to something. We'd love to hit the sweet spot. We'd love to execute and get that right. And I think not only do we have a group of practitioners, investors and board that are stable, fans that support us, I do genuinely think we're on to something here. And if we can just work together and hit that sweet spot, I think we could have some really good days out, and hopefully come the end of this year, things that we've been working together for over a number of years, maybe it feels like that moment that we might just, hopefully if we get things right, if we execute right, and a few things going our favour, hopefully we might get the rewards at the end of it. That's certainly the aim.
Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, Michael, Jez and Liam.
And there we go. So I think that is the end of episode 385 of the Stacey West Podcast.
So that's the end of the episode. If you're listening at home, we'll cut off now. If you're in the room, you've got 5 minutes tops to refill your glasses, get your shirts ordered. We're going to have a really quick Q&A with the guys if you've got any questions, and then we'll wrap it up. We have overrun, but of course we have, even without Chris on the microphone.
He did pose a question.
Yeah, Chris's questions were the problem. 5 minutes, and then we'll be back on for a quick Q&A. Thank you.
Got the Imps.